And boy, oh boy, if if that if that um if that Heyman again, all I want for Christmas is Al Heyman to be my promoter because that my agent, whatever, because he gets his fighters no matter what happens, no matter how much they lose. He gets them second, third, fourth, fifth. He gets them all these chances. He makes them more money than you would ever imagine in the situations they're coming from. Sometimes off losses and stuff. He really does. Now listen, a lot of people don't like him because he controls with the PBC and of course with Showtime and with Fox. He just plays he plays musical chairs with his fighters. And he's doing that again with Ugas. He's doing that again with Ugas and Spence. But they all do. He keeps it in house. They all do that. Until there's a big enough fight where they have to go out of house. They're forced to.
When I was a casual, I thought as a casual, I spoke like a casual, and I looked at boxing like a casual. But when I became a hardcore, I put away all those casual things. This is Michael Rogers, and welcome to Bodywork Boxing.
Welcome back. It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. And once again, it's on. Teddy Atlas never fails to deliver. So we heard about Eddie. We heard about Chop Ring. And now we get to hear his opinion on Al Haymon. Isn't that fitting, man? Salute Teddy, man, for all the good work you're doing, man. I know you don't have to do it. I know that it's a passion, and that's why I appreciate your take on everything every week when you do it. I want to start off by saying that, PBC and Al Haymon, the great Al Haymon, who I've never heard a boxer talk bad about. I've never heard a boxer say anything bad about Al Haymon. I think he's a philanthropist, and he's made the most lucrative black and Hispanic fighters out there. I mean, can you name somebody else? I mean, he actually gave us Canelo versus Plant, in which Canelo walked away with $40 million, and Caleb Plant, who many argue didn't deserve the $10 million. And I'll elaborate for you, Teddy. Let me take this over for you. But they were saying that Caleb Plant maybe didn't deserve that, but the fact that he had that belt garnered him that attention, right? Al Haymon, he put on Deontay Wilder. He put on Spence. We get ready to see Spence versus Ugas for the third piece to the four-piece puzzle. We also have Tank Davis, who he manages, who TMT promotes, but the great Al Haymon manages. And so when we look back at the track record of Mr. Al Haymon and what he's able to do, here lately, this past week, I've heard a lot of murmuring, a lot of complaining, And being an outsider looking in, I don't know all the details. I don't know why some fighters are not getting, what they feel they deserve or why they're not getting booked for fights. I wish I was in the know. I do my job, and I put in my vested interest into boxing by saying people's names, like Mr. Gary Antoine Russell. That man is must-see TV. I've been saying this. Just go back. I can do 1,000 previously where I'm mentioning Mr. Gary Antoine Russell. I'm mentioning Mr. Russell. I'm mentioning Mr. Gary Russell, Mr. Antoine Russell, and I'm mentioning Mr. Antonio Russell, who just fought. Been high on them guys. So it's kind of like an 80-20 thing when it comes to certain boxers. You can please 80% of them, and 20% you just really can't please. And we don't know. I'm not going to get into, the minutia of what happened and whatever, because, from a fan, who just does content, you don't know the ins and outs of it. You know, you can only make your, you can only state your claim and you can promote the fighter that you like. I know that the boxers that I value and I keep high, I mention them, or I keep their name relevant whenever it plays into what I'm discussing. But let's take a glance at what Teddy had to say about Mr. Al Haymon. He said, all I want for Christmas is for Mr. Al Haymon to be my promoter, agent, whatever you want to call him. He said he gets his fighters the biggest paydays. He gets them 2 and 3 and 4 and sometimes 5 chances. You know, when you look at the Adrian Broners and all the things that they were actually able to do and how many opportunities they had at to bat, I mean, I don't really think that there's much you can really find. I think that there's a stigma, when it comes to Mr. Al Haymon, because he is what we call an enigma. He is the Kaiser Soze of this boxing game. A lot of people talk about him, but few have actually laid eyes upon him. Not in key situations. I even heard a boxer say that they met and talked with him or whatever, and after it was over, they came up and said, how was it speaking to Al? And he was like, Al? He was like, yeah, the guy, the gentleman you was talking to, that was Al. He was like, what? That was Al? He didn't even know. Let's think about that, because we got a lot of promoters that's out in front of the cameras and always seen and always heard and always just, saying things or whatever. And that, to some people, that does a lot, but I'm a results-driven individual. And I just thought it was interesting because here it is that Teddy Atlas, he's doing his own thing. He's not hurting for money. He's just, going into his hobby and talking about sports, and this is his passion, because you can always hear it, especially when he get revved up. It make me want to just, you know what I'm saying? It make me want to just grip up, you know what I'm saying? But he has no vested interest in promoting Al Haymon. And he was very honest saying that all of them do the in-house thing unless it's big enough for them to go out-house. But somehow, Mr. Al Haymon here lately is getting a bad rap. But why don't he do this? And I would go over there to Eddie Hearn, and I've already listed my rankings. I think the zone is, I think Golden Boy is down here. Eddie Hearn and them is second. Top Rank is third. And Al Haymon is the cream of the crop. You gotta salute excellence when you see it. He delivered the fight. He's getting ready to give us undisputed at 154 for the rematch. He's getting ready to give us the third piece to the puzzle, so we can get an undisputed at 47. He gave us the Wilder franchises. He's given us a lot, and he gave us Caleb Plant and Canelo, where Caleb Plant got $10 million. Did his resume say that he should have got it? But the great Al Haymon did it. So I think we got to give credence to what Teddy is saying and what he chooses to say. Now, he does not discriminate and say that they all do it. And that's what I think is important for my hardcores to understand. Not the casual fans, not the casual content creators who just put out bird feed because they know that people with what they call an itch in the ear is just going to run with anything they say. And we're not talking about them people. We're talking about people that actually follow the sport, that nurture and cater to the sport, that actually buy fights, that would never come out and say, oh no, I'm not going to support this pay-per-view, and then wonder and question why certain fighters aren't getting fights. They're not going to come out and say, oh, Adrian Broner, he's such a drunk, he's not living a lifestyle of a boxer, and he needs to get himself in shape, and then come out 2 weeks later and say, why Adrian Broner didn't get a fight? Oh, Keith Thurman, he needs a date, and he needs a time, and why can't Keith Thurman? Now, Keith Thurman got a date. Keith Thurman got a date. But Keith Thurman also put his foot in his whole mouth by saying that he wants to be back in the creme de la creme, but then saying that he doesn't know what Jerron Booth's in it. We got to keep that same energy. And we can actually help Mr. Al Haymon by stop making these dumbass videos about these fighters that's on his network when you want to bash him and then a couple weeks later try to promote them and ask why they're not fighting. That's just like every time you mention Mr. Gary Russell's name, a lot of these content creators come out and say, oh, his name is synonymous with inactivity. And I'm like, why do y'all do that? Operate in excellence. Don't equate that man's name to inactivity. Why? It's obviously PBC is actually listening. Whoever's pulling the strings or doing whatever they're doing, they're listening. They are. But you can't equate that man's name to inactivity and then be demanding for fights and saying, oh, I want this and this. No, they're listening. You got to do that for everybody that's on that label. And he has the most fighters out of all these promoters. He has 3 networks that they can fight on. How many other networks do anybody else have? I mean, by God's sakes, Golden Boy is fighting on The Zone. The Zone has The Zone. And Top Rank has ESPN along with their pay-per-view app. Al Haymon has Fox, Showbox, Showtime, and pay-per-view. You just gotta salute excellence when you see it, man. I think a lot of us don't recognize it. A lot of us don't see the sins or the cardinal sin that we're making when we make certain videos about certain people. Only to turn around like a week and a half, 2 weeks later, sometimes 2 months or 3 months later, contradicting ourselves. Let's keep that same energy. Let's salute Teddy for being truthful about how all of these promoters are doing it. But he said all he wants for Christmas is Al Haymon as his promoter. Golly. Body work.
All right. I believe you. But my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
My word, I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fucked solid up, man. You know what I'm saying? To the fans that know.
Do that job outside the ring. I'm a fighter, like I said before. Ain't no safety on the clock, so